What's up, guys? Real Estate Bros back with another video. This one's a little different today. We're going behind the scenes. So let's get at it. So you see here, this is just one of the places that I use to find my deals. There's no sponsorship here or anything like that. We're not getting any type of money from this. This is just what we really use, along with other sites. So this is kind of just their site. You scroll down and they have a few houses here. I've already clicked into this one, and I know it's in the area that I want. So we're just going to kind of look through this one and kind of just show you how we think about deals. So right off the bat, this interest rate looks pretty good. It's hard to get that type of rate nowadays. And sub 2 is basically you're just buying the house subject to the current mortgage. So you basically just take over somebody's mortgage. And that's where this $10,000 comes into play, is you're paying $10,000 in order to actually take over the mortgage, which in this case is right here, the $184,000. So this looks interesting to me. It's in an area where I like. So we're just gonna do a quick analysis on this and see if it's worth it. So instantly I see the ARVs 275. And then that looks pretty good because 184 plus 10,000 is like 194. So it looks like we have some margin there. So I'm just going to test that out. I already have this area pulled up here. So this is Kelsey Drive right here. So we'll look at some of these. This is pretty similar. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,500 square feet. The property we're looking at is a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,144 square feet, and it's also built in 2000. So that's going to be kind of what we're looking for, to kind of stay around that. And this house is pretty similar to that. The square footage is a little higher, so we'll take that into consideration. And we're just going to kind of get an overview of this house. The exterior looks pretty nice. The roof doesn't look like it's brand new. I don't know if you guys can see it very well, but it looks like a little algae there. So not brand new, but also probably not in bad condition. Just scroll through some of these pictures. Let's get a feel for the house. This house, pretty nice open area, open kitchen. The cabinets look like they've at least been painted. Appliances look like they're updated. Countertop looks like it's most likely a linoleum. Let's see, or laminate, sorry, laminate countertop. Bathroom. The bathroom, like that tub looks like it's not been updated. These countertops look like they have. The flooring looks decent. Yeah, so overall this house looks to be in pretty good shape. Everything's not updated, everything's not new, it's not, top notch, but it looks like in good shape. So we're gonna go back and look at another one here. So this house, right off the bat, we're not gonna look at that. The square footage is like way, way higher. How about this one? So this one is probably more similar. It's a little bit smaller. 3-bed, 2-bath. It's almost 20 years older. The outside looks a little bit, a little ran down. It needs a little updating, painting, things like that. Scroll down here. kitchen looks like it has not been updated. Keep going here, looking at these pictures. This bathroom looks okay, but again, nothing really special there. Doesn't look like it's freshly updated or anything like that. Okay, so we're gonna go back. That one looks okay. Let's see, this sold for 148 a square feet. And that's probably one more thing I'm gonna let you guys know. I have this, all of these houses have sold in the past 3 months. That's the criteria I'm using right now, is 3 months, because the market is kind of just transitioning right now, or kind of staying flat. So I want to make sure we're being up to date on this. This house looks pretty good, and this is really, really close to the same square foot. This sold for 204 square foot. It is 4 years newer. So let's take a look at these pictures. So the kitchen looks pretty updated. It's like a pretty narrow. So, not bad, but not great either. Some carpet. Looks like carpet in the dining room area too. I don't think people prefer that. So again, it looks, updated, but not too crazy. Just, light updates. It's nothing real special. So compared to our property we're looking at, go through some of these pictures here. The outside is similar. So the inside, of course, there's still stuff here. So we always assume that we're going to remove everything we see in there. Will have to come out. We just always assume that, just in case it doesn't, because that does cost money. It looks like they're in the middle of a renovation. Looks like they have some newer countertops, newer cabinets, and appliances, but there still needs to be some work done here. See, this countertop over here doesn't quite match up, so we're gonna have to do some stuff with that. Get the ceiling and walls back in order a little bit. We'll have to put some hardware. This bathroom looks like it's pretty freshly updated, but we got some piping still exposed. Yeah, so they're mid renovation here. We're gonna have to do some work on this. Just get a good view of all these pictures, just to get a sense of what we're gonna have to do on this one. It looks like this bathroom is not updated. So it looks like maybe we can probably keep a tub or something. I don't think the area is not really calling to replace a tub. But maybe update the vanity and countertop there. Maybe keep the toilet, change out the floor. So just looking through real quick, it doesn't look like the house is in terrible shape, but it's gonna need some work. Not sure about permits on any of this structure here. I have no idea, was this permitted, was it not? So that's always a concern. The HVAC looks to be, I don't know if it's new. It doesn't look like it's new because of this, but it looks newer. So it looks like it's at least been updated at some point, maybe. Some drywall work in here have to be finished out. HVAC, that ductwork seems to be in good shape. Insulation looks okay. 2-car garage. All right, so the house needs some work. It's not crazy work. For the best I can tell from here, it looks like it's architectural shingles, which are an upgrade from 3-tab. So basically this one, again, it's being offered subject to. So we would pay $10,000 in order to take over their mortgage of 184. And this PITI here, that's basically the monthly payment. That's going to be your principal, interest, and then your taxes and your insurance right there. So you'll pay that each month. And then they're thinking the rent is about $14.28, which that probably sounds about right for the area. So now there's all kinds of options to do with the house, but we're gonna look at it for a flip and also a rental property. So we're gonna start with the flip. They're thinking the house is worth $275. We just did some digging. This house looks very similar. It sold for $204 a square foot. If we update our house a little more and we want to be a little generous, we can maybe get that up to like $215 a square foot. So pull up the calculator here. So our square foot on this one is 1144. If we do $215 a square foot, we're looking at $245,960. So let's just, for simple math, let's make this $245. So now we got $245. Right off the top, we're going to take off $24,500, which is 10%. And that's going to cover like our realtor fees and closing costs and all that stuff at the end. 10%. That's pretty much what you're going to spend. Then we can also take off, and again, this is just rough numbers. This is to see if it's even worth like analyzing further. So these are just quick rough numbers off the top of my head. Let's say we're going to maybe put 40,000 into it. This is probably a max number, 40,000 into the fix. And maybe we'll do a video one day to kind of show where I get some of those numbers, but that's just off on top of my head. Could be a little less than that. That gets us to 180. So our initial closing cost, let's just call that maybe $8,000. That's going to cover points and fees and all the upfront closing costs. See what else we got. Some holding costs, including interest and things like that. So let's just maybe call that about 15,000. That's going to be like your interest on your loan. It's going to be, gas, water, all your utilities, any utilities you might be using during the time. Then on this particular deal, I would also use a private money lender for the down payment and the holding costs. So we would also pay them $6,000 just to borrow $50,000 for the job. see. So that gets us down to 151. That's before I even make any money on it. A job like this, I'd probably want to make like 15, maybe 20,000. So we'll just keep it to the high end. We'll go 20,000. So I'm looking at like 131,500. That's what I would be able to offer on this house, just with quick math. And in this case, it's a subject to. So we would be looking at this number right here, our mortgage payoff. So we would have to minus our mortgage payoff and also our entry fee of 10,000. So minus 10,000. So for a flip with rough numbers, it's just not looking like this one's going to work. We're negative 63,000. So even if we're generous and this only costs us 20,000 to fix up, we're still in the negatives. So this one's just not going to work as a flip. So I wouldn't analyze this any further as a flip. So that would be it. From here, because we don't want to just give up. So here I would look again at this PITI and then the rent. And I can tell you right off the jump, that's not even $100 a month. That's not gonna actually cash flow. So just looking at that, I wouldn't even typically put this through my rental calculator, but the interest rate is good. And I'd like to just show you guys that real quick. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. So we have a rental calculator. I already put in our address there. So this purchase price, we're basically gonna get for this payoff here. So we're gonna add in the 184 plus the 10,000. So we're gonna do 194,000. And then the repair cost up front. It is a rental, so maybe we don't have to do the highest end stuff, but we could probably still call that $30,000. And then we'll just use what we used before for closing costs at 8,000. And we're just going to use their rent. $1,428 a month. That sounds pretty close, so we're going to use that. All right, this vacancy rate, we like that around 5%. That's going to calculate, those months that in between where nobody's renting the house, just to make sure we can actually cash flow on this. The full value at purchase, we're going to assume this is after we repair it. We're going to use that number of 245. The appreciation rate, I'm keeping that at 1% right now. Things just aren't appreciating that much right now, so I'd rather assume lower than higher. So down payment, let's do, I think this is a percentage here, but let me see if that, yeah, that's a percentage. So we'll do 0.05%. That gets us close enough. That's going to kind of get us our $10,000 entry fee on this one. And one more thing, this is assuming these repairs are coming out of pocket. more than likely we would use a private money lender to help with the repairs and stuff like that. So just to make this a little more realistic, we'll add 6,000 to this closing cost, just so we're calculating that interest in there somewhere. We make that 14,000 just to make the numbers more accurate. We're just going to assume an interest rate of 6.3% for our long term. And then, so this is that vacancy loss again, our 5%. That's taking that off right off the top. That gets us down to $13.57 a month we're working with. Property taxes. So we can actually go back to Zillow. Let's type in 436. Pull up our actual property here. And we have, this is public record here. So property tax on this one was a little over 2,000. So we'll just put in that number, 2,034. Insurance, that one's a little more of a guess. Rates around here, I'm just going to go ahead and assume I'd rather be a little bit on the high end. We'll probably go 1,800 a year. Maintenance and repairs, I'm gonna do that annually, 7.5%. Tenants are going to pay their own utilities. We're going to assume 10% for property management. Even if you're managing the property yourself, we need to include that number. So just in case one day you don't want to, we have that income already calculated for, or expense. So we need to make sure we're doing that. And then even if you are doing it, like, you need to get paid for your time to do that. So we're not going to have any mortgage insurance. Capital expense reserve. This is basically your big ticket items. This is going to be your roof, HVAC, maybe like plumbing, just, your big ticket items. So we always going to assume about 5% for that. So that gives us a net operating income of 8,675. So per month, that's 723. And then our principal interest at 1142. So our actual cash flow here, those parentheses mean negative. So we're negative 418 per month, or over 5,000 per year. So our total return for cash flow and amortization is negative 5%. And that's not very good. And our amortization is basically the loan payoff. So that's every month we're paying our loan off. The tenant is actually paying for us. So that includes that in there. And then the total return, cash flow, amortization, and appreciation, we're still negative. So that's just not going to work. This property won't work as a rental, as we can just see here, and it won't work as a flip, as we clearly saw before. So we will not be putting in an offer on this one. We won't be analyzing this one any further. So I just wanted to show you that. And just a quick shout out to Coach Carson on YouTube. This is his rental calculator. You can find him here, coachcarson.com. I just want to give him credit for his rental property analysis here. And so that's going to be it. So that's kind of how we found the deal. We kind of ran through quick numbers, how we figure out how much it's worth, pictures. We use pictures for how much we think it's going to cost to improve the property. And again, these are all just quick numbers. If this lined up to where it was close to where it would make sense, we would analyze this even further to decide if we're going to either put in an offer. And it's always good if we can actually physically get out to the property. I always prefer to look at it in person if possible. And then finally, over here, if the flip's not going to work, we'll run it through our rental calculator real quick if it makes sense. And again, one more time, I already knew it wasn't going to make sense just between the difference between the PITI and the rent rate. $100, that's never going to be enough to actually cash flow on the property. So if you liked this video, make sure you guys give it a thumbs up. Make sure you comment, and make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you get the notifications on new videos. We definitely appreciate that. Real Estate Bros out.